Hello, this is Brother George, also known as Nana, reporting live from the motherland in Accra, Ghana. And I'm here outside the premises of Africa Global Radio with Victor, the editor here. And so we're gonna go in. And here we are entering the wonderful premises of Africa Global Radio. So Victor, walk me through this.
Okay, walk you through.
So here we are, entering the building.
Yeah. So here is the receptionist area.
Yes.
So on our right side is the conference room which all the meetings is all the boards here.
Yes. Oh, fantastic. I think there's a meeting going on in there, so we won't go there.
I'm really sure it's everything.
So, okay.
On our left side is the studio where everything happens. The radio show, the live segment and everything.
Yes.
And this is a place where you have your meetings on here.
Yes.
And I think right now you're having a show, the podcast is on, so
yes.
Counting inside the moment.
Of course. Afterwards, we're going to have a meeting there with the co-founder, Yasmin. Yeah. So where are we off to next?
So you're to the production room where the brains and everything occurs.
Okay.
So here is where our producers, directors sit out to bring up the ideas, create
Right.
They script everything down for us to start shooting.
Right.
So from the delay show to the whole delay show and everything. The directors, producers sit down, trust everything out, send to us to start shooting out. But you can take a look.
Yeah, this is lovely. There's a meeting in progress here, guys.
Okay, so this is the production room.
Aha.
The idea room also. They have the creative room.
Yeah.
Where the plans for the shows occurs. So all the scripts and everything are
these are the brains behind the shows.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So Victor, tell us, what do you do at Africa Global Radio?
Okay, so at Africa Global Radio, I handle most of the editing that occurs here and some of the camera works too. So if the camera person is not there, I take over and start doing it.
Yes.
And so mostly I just focus on editing the works, doing some of graphics in the works.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's any outside production, we go with my crew. If there are two cameras, I take one, the other person take one, then we start shooting.
Mm-hmm.
We come back, then we start editing.
Okay.
So mostly what I do for Africa Global Radio is editing and camera works.
Editing and camera work. Fantastic. And how long have you been here?
Almost 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah, just everything.
Aha, okay. And how are you finding things?
Well, really interesting because the vision and aim of this institution, like this company, is really interesting. Like there's stuff that you know about Africa that got really intriguing. Yeah, like some of your works, the Black Secrets.
Right.
Yeah, Jeorge says they get to know that in Africa, the black person was the richest person ever.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, the Musa.
Mansa Musa.
Yes. I'm like, it was really shocking. Like, wow.
I know.
Because it was really shocking. I never knew African person was that rich.
Yes. And even modern day, multi-billionaires don't compare with Mansa Musa.
Yeah, that was really shocking. Like, I thought my concept about everything is that foreigners were the richest person.
Mm-hmm.
But now I was proving that the black person was the richest, and up to now there's nobody that can surpass him.
Yes. And for him to be that rich, it means the society was also incredibly rich, prosperous and wealthy, which proves that African societies were sophisticated in the Middle Ages before enslavement. Can I ask you as well, in terms of you've got your hands in many pies, you're doing many different things, what's your favorite discipline? In terms of the work that you do, camera work, editing, lighting?
Mostly I love the editing rather.
Okay.
But as an editor, you need to pick up certain skill sets. And with camera, gives me the visual, which also helps me in my editing.
Yes.
So if I get right camera shots, right cutaways, right angle, my editing is going to be easier.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I also learned the camera to help me make my work easier also.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Victor.
Thank you very much for having us.
Appreciate it. Right, we're here in the studio of Africa Global Radio.
Welcome.
Got the crew in the background, and we've got Yasmin, the co-founder here.
You're very
thank
welcome.
you very much for introducing me and taking me around. Just wanted to ask a few questions for our viewers. So could you tell us a little bit about Africa Global?
Yes. Okay. Well, Africa Global Radio was founded just over 3 years ago. This year is actually 3 years of broadcasting.
Okay.
And we like to go by that date.
Right.
So 2020, the 6th of March, which is Ghana's Day of Independence. So it was very, intentional.
Right.
Actually starting on that day.
Yes.
And, Africa Global Radio was set up as a response to, despite, our time really responding to still very much negative narratives on Africa.
Yeah.
And for us, it's really important. We know there are challenges, but of course, the depiction of Africa, not just in the global north, but within Africa, is very disturbing. And even though things are better, we still haven't gone far enough. And so Africa Global Radio was set up to, be a global communications platform so we could have more African voices telling Africa's story. We believe that there's a need for more African voices telling Africa's story. And fundamentally, we need to push our positive stories out to the youth that would, in a minute, leave the continent, risk their lives on the high seas or across the desert because they feel that there's nothing here that is of value, or that there's, Africa has nothing to offer them. And,
yes.
The brilliance, the progress, the perseverance, African excellence that is relatable, we think can change mindsets.
Absolutely.
And that's our driving force.
Okay, fantastic. So I do love your ethos of being positive. Can you give us any examples of the kinds of stories that you broadcast here?
Yeah, so we have Africa Global Radio, right? Our flagship, we have Africa Daily.
Yes.
That's our flagship program, and that's a magazine program. So immediately, let's just go by the way the program is set up. We have, it has a variety of segments. Good news. That's a dedicated segment on good news happening across Africa, but often doesn't get to be headline news, okay? We have African Champion. That's about individuals that are doing great things and impacting across the continent and in the diaspora. We have Headlines Across Africa. That's where countries' policies, good governance for adapting and adopting is occurring. So Headlines Across Africa, we like to focus on where things are like happening that could be, really and truly given the space and the oxygen to adapt. And then we have What's New. So What's New is books, films, music, the creative arts, I don't need to say much
Yes.
about the creative arts in our community.
Yes.
It is global,
Yes.
okay? And we're not harnessing. It starts here, but it gets more value out off the continent, okay?
Of course.
So we're really into pushing that. And then we also have we have discussion zone where we're really discussing about, social issues, but that are very solution. We take it from a solution-centered perspective.
Right.
And then what else do we have on Africa Daily? So we have, it's really about, we have Did You Know? That's amazing facts on things that
Fantastic.
we have, achieved. And there's a lot of amazing facts that oh my God, we did that, did we? And it was decades ago, centuries ago.
Yes.
Whether it's Mansa Musa or an athlete or whatever, right? So they're random facts that really trigger pride and really a new insight into who we are. Because unfortunately, and you know that more than anybody, we still don't teach enough Black history at school.
No, we don't.
So you really have to find it it has to come from the home. But in our education system, it is not enough. We are underserved when it comes to knowing about our history.
Right.
So we try to do a whole kind of, a mixed match. And that's on Africa Daily, which is every day at 1:00 live.
Yeah.
And then we also break it up so people can also play back from our website. So that's one of our programs. And then generally, our podcasts, that's really another kind of realm where we really kind of discover all these positive things that are happening in our space, both historically and the now. And we also work with organizations and brands that are busy contributing towards Africa's growth. And we go in to develop with them and create programs and podcasts around them as well that are aligned to our values.
Oh, fantastic. Wow, that's a lot. So you've got a broad spectrum of different interests and topics that you focus on. So you've got the creative arts, which is wonderful. You've got news, you've got business, you've got lifestyle, entertainment. Also, of course, you mentioned history and academia as well. Can you tell us why it is important to focus on history and academia?
Yes, so it's fundamental. It's, as I was saying before, it's absolutely fundamental to know our history. We've all heard, if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it in terms of the negative, okay?
Sure. Yeah.
We don't have thriving history departments in school.
No.
So it needs to start from young, okay? So it's absent in our education system.
Yeah.
Academic and historical programming, historical programming is absolutely fundamental for recognition, for enlightenment in terms of the contributions our academics have made. And for me, and we have actually a program that is just about to go into development, but it's been in the suitcase for a while, but it's not sexy. So
it's not sexy.
When I say sexy, sorry, I'm using TV terms here. It's not appealing for enough for sponsors. The normal sponsor would not necessarily jump on it, right? Because it's seen as a niche market. But the reality is, our African academics, and that's the name of our show that is going to be coming up in the future. African academics, what do? They sweat and really go through the mill, researching out on the field. And they their outcome is a thesis.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens? Often, yes, they become a doctor or, a professor, but the work, the body of work, how is it helping Africa? Yeah. So I'm a great fan for two reasons. As well as the recognition and the enlightenment and the pride that we get from knowing our history, and that being a powerful tool in order to navigate our future. There's also another side, and that's more about how do we apply the learnings of academia to society so we can have impactful change. So there's a lot of armchair academics that, don't kill me, but it's true. I'm in an academic bubble. My husband's an academic, and I've always been within that bubble, for the last over 2 decades, lived on university campuses and all the rest of it. But for me, and that's what I admire so much about my husband, he has transferred the knowledge to society, to impact. And the more examples we can see of that, so our academics need a platform. They also suffer racism when it comes to journals getting printed and published, and even to just get to being a professor. I know all the inner politics of that.
Yes.
But history is important. If you don't know, it's important for you to really appreciate your identity and to navigate your future,
Absolutely.
So I'm a great fan of history, and that's why we're partners, because we love what African Secrets do in terms of
the Black Secret. She meant the Black Secret people.
Yes. So, and that's what I love about what the Black Secrets Education Project do. I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Disseminating our history in a way that is absorbable, because a lot of, and I think it needs to be interesting. It needs to be relatable. Our young people, with how social media is now, you have to really, as they often say, meet them where they are, right? So we need to be able to teach history. So just as somebody is browsing or moving from short to short, and the person's either twerking or singing or comedy, whatever your entertainment is, we also need to make history, create history in a way that has our young people coming back for more, So, and we are also engaged in partnerships and trying to also do that. So it's appealing for young people because they're our future and they need to know really in order for us to kind of change our future.
I see. You shared a lot there. I think you're very right. Academia is important. And may I just say, I think the idea for the new show is very sexy. And it's just a question of people actually coming to realize and understand the value that it has. It's not being made open to the mainstream. People have to go through various different difficult channels to get access to the information. Absolutely. So I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. And of course, we can relate to that as the Black Secret. Can I just on that also ask, why is it specifically important to have an African-centered focus on education and on history, if you do subscribe to that?
Well, yes. I have mixed feelings on that. Yeah. When you say African-centered, I really think it's about having certain fundamentals in place.
Okay.
Right? Like the foundation, the basis. Yeah. So I think that's important for our children. especially to be able to have a better purpose in terms of how you want to navigate. It's about identity. You should know your history. Like any family, you should know your history, right? We should know our history. I also believe in diversity because I feel that, I do have friends that, I don't know if you could call it purists, right? That everything they do is, I would like to ask you even what you mean by Afrocentric. Because it means different things to different people. So
I specifically said African-centered. And I think that there's a discussion around that in itself. And my way of looking at it or using that term is really to say the alternative to the Western framing of African history, which is very limited, very shallow. Either it tries to avoid it, or when it deals with it, it's not in a detailed fashion, or it's not actually in context. I believe in contextualizing things and putting things in a proper framework in which people can absorb it. So I suppose I'm really, when I say African-centered, in a fashion which is more digestible for people of African origins compared to what we get in the mainstream in Western academia and how it presents it.
Yes, and another person would say simply objective,
There you go. There you go.
We should be given an objectivity, which is something that academics are meant to love, but fail to if we see our books and our history and how how we've been depicted and how things are left out, and even the size of the map, till today. There are so many.
That's a really good example.
Yes.
The maps that were given to, African students in the 1950s and 60s. If you see them, Africa, it's not even the standard map which is used. It was reduced. It was even half the size of that because they wanted Africans to be conditioned to think of themselves as smaller than Europeans and everyone else.
Absolutely.
And they did that visually.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it came out in textbooks. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about.
Exactly.
It's systematic.
Systematic. So when we say African-centered, really, actually, we're just talking about truth and objectivity, but because it's lacking, we have to now say it's African-centered.
Yes.
And it's almost like that's a bias too. But really, it's truth. That's what I'm a fan of. Truth. Yes. Objective truth.
Yes.
So that's where I stand. I think we need to be given a diet in the first place, because we're very malnourished when it comes to our historical knowledge.
And that's intentional.
And it's absolutely disgraceful on the continent because we are now meant to be in charge of our own affairs, right? It's meant to be our education system, but is it really, right? But that's a whole big topic. So when you say, am I in favor of African-centered learning or environments, I'm in favor of truth. I'm in favor of objectivity.
I see African-centered focus as just being a more honest and more detailed and more comprehensive representation of African history specifically, which you don't get in the mainstream.
Yeah. And that's
we have to label it different from the mainstream because one person's truth is another person's misrepresentation. So it's just about making the separation obvious, as it were. But most African-centered historians actually are just interested in presenting Africa in a true light.
Yes.
In a true light.
Yeah. And I'm very much in favor of that. Of course I am. And we try to do it here. Like I said, here at Africa Global Radio through our programming. And Did You Know especially tackles that, in bite-sized chunks. Excuse me. So our youth can really appreciate our history and not just think it was slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it stopped and ended. And,
Yes.
now it's economic slavery, So it's really important for me personally. It was really important for that to be the driving factor, to be able to invoke a sense of pride and value and foresight.
Yes.
How to knowing what our past is like.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we're definitely on board with that. So, as we come to a close, can I just ask you, could you tell us in brief a little bit more about the services that you offer here at Africa Global Radio?
Yes. So, radio is in our name. So, Africa Global Radio is a global communications platform. So, we have our online radio, and then we have our Africa Global Productions. So we're also a production house.
Right.
So we are a podcast studio.
Mm-hmm.
We're also into audio visual. So we film. We go out and film for clients who are normally brands, organizations, all types of outfits and individuals, and often, or I would say 99%, are also on the same mission, right? Busy working towards Africa's growth.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's adverts, commercials, jingles, documentaries, whether it's
you cover the lot.
Social media, content creation, we do it all.
Fantastic.
And so we have a team of fantastic technicians, audio-visual technicians.
Some of whom you've met earlier.
Some of you are on the right of me.
Absolutely.
Behind the scenes.
Yes.
And they're a young, hungry force, I would say. And I
believe so.
Oh yeah, and it's great because I keep telling them I'm double your age, guys. I could be your mother.
Age is only a number.
Yeah, but they keep me young. I know, but they keep me young because they are young and they believe in the mission and they're committed, and they are our future leaders. It's not just in media. It's the same in education because I'm linked to that too. And it's great to work with young people who are really going to be the drivers of our future. And I try to give them that space early.
Yes.
So they can really lead and not think, we have this thing here where it's like, just watch. Just watch and observe.
Yes.
And wait till your time.
Oh.
And I think it's increasingly changing where young people are given the chance to also lead and get the confidence to suddenly not be the passive one, but to be the actor. And even for our older generations,
you learn through experience,
to be the
don't you?
Yes.
So, these guys are going to be a power force in the next 5 to 10 years for sure.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, one final question. You mentioned that we have a partnership, and we've worked before, and we've got a partnership going as well. Can I ask you, what are your thoughts of The Black Secret, and how do you feel about what we do?
Well, I'm a big fan, and that is absolutely, I was so excited. I mean, it was just a coincidence. It was a pure, one of your team were in Ghana, and
that's Danny, by the way.
Yeah, Danny. Let's give names.
Yes.
Danny was in Ghana. Danny happened to be in the AGR building, and I just got talking to him, and it was so great that he was into the same. We went to the same things, and he gave me like a flyer.
Yeah.
And I
designed
was like,
by yours truly.
Oh, well done. Thank you. Well, I was like, oh, wow. So he gave me this flyer, and all I see is the Black Secrets Education Project. And then I Google it, go on, and I'm just like, this is hand in glove. And I think it was even his first time in Ghana.
I believe it was, yes.
Yes. So he was like totally immersed by the whole Accra, Ghana vibe. And true to form, when he got back, we got in contact, and we were like, we really have to do this. The synergy is palpable.
And now we are doing it.
And now we are doing it. And what I love to just really answer your question is the courses. It's nice to be able to bring in people that want to learn, right?
Yes.
There's different ways to get them, right? So those that are committed to increasing their knowledge, you guys do fantastic courses.
We do.
And we are the ones that are helping promote that, because people love it. And people also see the value. And it's great to reach the converted, but it's even greater to reach the unconverted, right?
And that's our job.
Yes.
To bring this quality of Black history to the masses worldwide. Yasmin, thank you very much.
Actually, that's a bit formal, isn't it?
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
Look, we do the African thing.
Oh, yes. Sorry, that's the...
Yeah.
We need the click.
Yeah,
Yes.
Charlie. Hey, Charlie.
Sound effect,
Hey, man.
please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Yes.
guys.